Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Pat Brosnan, live from the Batcave, 30 feet underground, somewhere in Gotham, under a nondescript building, and good luck finding us. So welcome. We have a very, very special guest this morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct honor to introduce my good friend, a true visionary in the security industry, and an absolute titan, Glenn Kucera, president of MSA Security. Decades of extraordinary leadership and a relentless passion for excellence, Glenn has elevated MSA to the undisputed gold standard in elite threat protection, explosive and firearms detection, canine services, and cutting-edge security solutions that safeguard the world's most vital people, assets, and properties. What makes MSA truly exceptional is that it stands as the premier division of Allied Universal, which is the largest security company in the history of the human race. This powerhouse partnership commands unmatched global scale, deploying over 17,000 highly trained armed security professionals drawn from every branch of the U.S. military, including elite warriors from Delta Force, Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, along with the absolute finest from the law enforcement agencies across the country. And a world-class fleet of nearly 1,000 canines, many of them trained in explosives and weapons detection. Truly extraordinary. Together at MSA, they deliver unparalleled protection for people, assets, and properties in more than 100 countries around the globe. So please join me, ladies and gentlemen, in giving a warm, enthusiastic welcome to the remarkable Glenn Kucera. Good morning, Glenn.
Hey, good morning, Pat. Thanks so much. It's great to be here. We've known each other for a while. We tried to attack a couple of threats and are working a lot of these going forward. So I appreciate being on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining. I know you're juggling a lot of hand grenades and chainsaws in today's world. I mean, almost every day there's some significant nightmare unfolding. I mean, Saturday night, we had the sheer madness at the Hilton in Washington, D.C., and the threats just keep on coming and coming. And well, we got a lot to get into, so I really appreciate you carving time out, Glenn. You're a good man, and I know you're a busy bee. So I'll talk fast if you listen fast. So
Will do.
You're the best, man. Glenn, your journey from a certified public accountant at KPMG years back to becoming the president of MSA Security and leading the world's largest and most efficient security firm has been truly unique. How did that strong business foundation at KPMG prepare you to build and lead elite high-threat protection operations?
It's a great question, Pat, and it gets asked frequently. We have 17,000 employees in my division, and I'll just go on the record. I was the CEO of MSA Security. We sold to Allied Universal in October of 21. And Allied buys a lot of companies. They had certain individuals that were in intel investigations. And then 23, we rolled this all together and called it Allied Universal's Enhanced Protection Services Division. So that is now the division that I'm working for. But, 17,000 employees, and nearly every one of them are ex-military and ex-law enforcement, except for me. So people ask the question, how can you be their leader without that prior experience? And my motto is, to be an effective leader, you don't have to have all the answers. You got to hire the right people, and you have to ask the right questions. And I'll tell you, the one thing from KPMG, yes, I came out as a certified public accountant. KPMG was the largest accounting firm in the world. When I started, I worked in the audit department. The one thing that taught me is a curiosity. At a very young age, when you're going through the financial statements, you're trying to figure out if they're accurate or not. And you ask a question, you can't always take the first response as God's honest truth. So you dig a little deeper and you try to find out a little bit more and to get to the truth. Same thing on the security side. Providing physical security is a team sport. I don't have all the answers, but I have 17,000 employees that do. So it's my privilege. Every time there's a threat, let's investigate it. Let's get the gang together and let's figure out how we attack it. And that holds forth through in any business that you're running.
Absolutely. You surround yourself with the best and the brightest. You ask the pertinent questions and they have the right answers. And that's what a true leader is. I totally agree. You know, for our listeners and viewers, Glenn, maybe you could explain how when MSA was acquired in 21, I believe you stated, how you came to stay on as president of MS Security, which is really the premier division of Allied Universal, because Allied buys a lot of companies, a lot of security companies, and I know this personally. They bought my company, but it's rare indeed that a CEO of a company that they acquire stays on to run an entire premier division under that name. Michael Stapleton and Associates, the acronym MSA. Uh, Tell us about how that came to be, because that truly seems extraordinary.
Yeah, that's not common in the allied world. You know, many of the owners like yourself, you know, you're part of the acquisition and you move on to do other things, and then Allied integrates that into their guarding business. But because our scope of work is so specific, and Allied, you know, this does not pertain to the guarding business whatsoever. And they bought over 100 companies. And again, there's bits and fragments of intel, investigations, some phenomenal people. And then in 2023, Steve Jones, the CEO of Ally, came to me and said, Glenn, I want to take all these higher consequence threat capabilities and roll them into one division. And I want you to be the guy. I said, okay, Steve, always looking for an opportunity. And I love the job. It's incredibly thrilling. So to get that responsibility to roll all of this together and take 5 or 6 individual organizations, operate as one, and really be the true leader and the true visionary and where we want to take this business with the great staff that we have. It is not common for Allied into these acquisitions and the way they integrate them. But in this case, we rolled it all together and it's worked incredibly well. And I tell you what is really substantial and what has really been successful is taking these individual uh, s- capabilities and working as a team. As I mentioned, you know, I have to ask the right questions, and there could be a specific incident like, you know, after the strikes in Iran, we were getting calls from clients saying, "I need to get my CEO or some employees out of Abu Dhabi or Dubai. You know, can you help me?" You know, so I'm like, okay, we're going to use Intel. We're going to use our government practice. We're going to use our EP practice and get all those people in the right room. And we were very successful in doing some of these evacuations that most people in the world thought there's no way we could pull off.
You're living a movie set, to be very honest. You know, and I can really appreciate it because in my company, which is now folded into Allied Universal, uh, we had an armed division, but it was very small. I don't know, 500 guys maybe. To think that you have under your direct control. Well, let's give the listeners a context for how big Allied is. Am I correct in saying around the world there's 800,000 employees with Allied Universal, mostly
Yeah.
guards?
Yeah. Allied has about 800,000 employees worldwide. After the acquisition of G4S in 2021, it's about 5 years ago today that they acquired G4S. 800,000 employees and about over 20 to 22 billion in revenue every year.
Absolutely mind blowing. It's truly mind blowing. And in over 100 countries. And understand the context of the division that you lead, the MSA division. You have 17,000 premier personnel with you, from the special forces operators, key personnel from law enforcement, plus 1,000 dogs. And do you operate and deploy in 100 countries? Am I accurate in recalling that?
The 1,000 canine teams are here in the United States. Okay, there's another 2,000 overseas that have some responsibility for that came through the G4S acquisition. So, and those are in about 100 different countries. So, if you look at the entire canine fleet, some of it's detection, some of it's patrol, There are 3,000 canine teams in the world, in the allied world. That is more than the Department of Defense. That is more than any agency in the world. So yes, there's 3,000 teams that are deployed. And in my scope of work, we do deploy in roughly 99 countries outside the United States.
Really amazing. I mean, who has more employees? U.S. Army and Walmart probably, right? That's
Right.
800,000. It's there's no one else. So, given the specific and the vital nature of what you provide in terms of armed personnel deployed into tough positions with supporting resources, weapons, certain vehicles, um, supporting intelligence from your command centers and your internal teams. I want to come to after the break. We're coming up on a hard break. I want to come to back to July 13th of 2024 in Butler, Pennsylvania, and from your lens as the leader of this elite 17,000 man operation, what your thoughts are on it, and how perhaps, had you been at the helm, you would have managed it from MSA perspective. So, folks, Pat Brosnan live from the Batcave. I'm here with the president of MSA, Glenn Kucera, and we're coming up hard on the break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned, and we're live from the Batcave. Be right back, folks.
In today's world, risk doesn't announce itself. It hides in plain sight. That's where Brosnan Consulting Services comes in. Founded by industry veteran Patrick J. Brosnan, we provide risk advisory and protective intelligence solutions for individuals, corporations, and institutions that can't afford uncertainty. From due diligence and investigative consulting to strategic intelligence and protection planning, we help you see threats before they become problems. When experience matters and discretion is essential, trust Brosnan Consulting Services. Visit brosnaninvestigative.com to learn more.
Morning, folks. Back here at the Batcave with Pat Brosnan and Glenn Kucera. If you're just checking in, we're discussing the extraordinary company that he runs, MSA, a premier security division of Allied Universal, only the largest security company in the history of the human race. I was just asking Glenn about July 13th, 2024, and I want to get his perspective as the leader of this premier outfit of highly skilled armed personnel. So, Glenn, on July 13th, 2024, in Butler, Pennsylvania, Thomas Matthew Crooks, he exploited some catastrophic, almost biblical level failures in communication, coordination, command, and control. All four. And ironically, Crooks was the only one who put a drone in the air that day. Local law enforcement, federal agencies, they failed to do so. How would you have leveraged MSA's extraordinary counter-drone technology, which I know you're in that business now, together with your ironclad security protocols, processes, and procedures to both detect and to stop crooks before the shots were fired?
Yeah, first of all, the Secret Service and local law enforcement did an amazing job of reacting to shots fired. It only took seconds to find a shooter and kill him, basically. But there's so much work that should have been done, before those shots were ever fired. You know, always in when we are deployed to do a similar type of work, we'll do a lot of advanced surveillance. Make sure you scope out the area, where shots could be fired. It's an open area because coming from rooftops, you got to spend a little time in those to see where a shot could be fired. But Crooks used drones for a couple of days to determine where he was going to fire a shot. So we have a teaming agreement and a reseller agreement. A partner of ours is a company called Airspace, which you introduced me to, Pat. And they have incredible technology on detecting drones and determining who the operators of these drones are. Had they done this advanced work 1 or 2 days in advance, they would have known Crooks is up to no good. They'd have been knocking on his door. They would have known what's going on. That's the first point of failure. The second thing is, in our business, we try to deter and detect, the reaction and pulling out your firearm and taking down a shooter. We leave that to the Secret Service and local law enforcement. If we would have been deployed there, crooks would have never made it on top of that roof. First of all, we would have used
Amen.
counter drone technology to identify him, identify the operator. He doesn't even take the shot. And let's just say, for instance, we did not deploy that technology. Now, if I got a German Shepherd and a canine handler and tactical gear standing next to that building, you think he crawls up that ladder? You think he fires that shot? You know,
Not in this
if,
lifetime.
if we have people in tactical gear that are armed and pointy-eared canine teams that are standing at the entryway, do you think he ever attempts to get out of that car to fire the shot? And by the way, most of those teams have capability to detect that firearm. So even if we had it hit him, we would have found him well before he got on top of that building. So again, great job of reacting by law enforcement and the Secret Service, but we have to do a better job to make sure those shots are never fired. And we have a number of technologies that would have kept that from ever happening.
And I think it's that forward-looking, advanced understanding by Allied and MSA about the extraordinary value of cutting-edge technology and how you guys weave it into the deployment of labor in the field, of boots on the ground in the field, to support them and to enhance both their investigative and protective abilities is really a very distinct differentiator between Allied and MSA and the other companies that are out there providing a high-level private security. I mean, when you briefed me up a while back on the weapons detection capabilities of your dogs, and you gave me a great analogy with the 10 vehicles and the one gun uh, that was secreted in the little glove box between the seats in the SUV, and how the dog was able to identify that weapon, go directly to that vehicle as soon as the door was open, dive in, and put his face right exactly where the gun was. Take us through that, because I would imagine that most folks would look at dogs and think, uh, cadavers, drugs, bombs. But now you guys have fine-tuned and honed and perfected the weapons detection to a range of olfactory indicators, which is what you explained to me. Maybe you could explain it to the folks, because it's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, canines have been used to detect improvised explosive devices for a long time. Really became popular here in New York City after 9/11. But in the last 2 years, we have really done a nice job of refining those capabilities and now include firearms. Not only do we imprint the canines on the black powder, which is easy to find, right? But we also use the holster material, the oils, the solvents, anything that's used in cleaning a gun. We can actually detect a firearm that's never been fired. So we deploy about 250 of our 1,000 teams have firearms detection capabilities. Okay, we find hundreds of guns in public venues every single week. Now, we're not arresting people. Some of these are in right to carry states, but any venue can say you can carry in the state, but you just can't carry here. But what is even more impressive, Pat, because a lot of this stuff gets recorded on CCTV and we can go back and watch it. The number of people that actually try to walk into these venues, see the canine team, tuck the gun, go put it in the car, come back in, or leave. That's the win.
Right,
We got
right.
95% of what we do, Pat, this is deter so you don't have to detect or you don't have to, fire a firearm, right? There wouldn't be if we had to fire a gun every time somebody had bad intentions, there would be no third party security companies because the liability would be way too high, right? Deter, detect, keep the
Yep.
people with bad intentions from actually performing that act. So it's incredibly, incredibly effective. Like I said, we find hundreds of firearms every single week. I was asked to do a demo down in Texas, and I won't say exactly where it was, but we set these demos up with a 100% chance of success. So we have a couple of guys carrying firearms, and always we give a little presentation, a demo. Well, the customer threw me a curveball. I said, "Okay, I know you probably have your own program set up, but I want you to find a couple of firearms in my office, which is easy. And they said, I got 10 vehicles outside, sitting in Texas. One of those vehicles is mine, and I have a Glock in the compartment between the two seats. The car's locked. There'll be not much odor that's going to be emanated from this. And I want you to screen these other vehicles. I could tell you there's no firearm in the other 14 vehicles, and I want you to tell me which one the firearm is in. I said, wow, it sounds like a challenge. But, the dog went through all 14 vehicles. It was, I think, number 9 of 14 where he had the firearm in the middle compartment, and the dog absolutely found it. The handler tried to pull him off, take it to another vehicle. He pulled right back to it, and he found that vehicle that had been fired about a week before he put it in that glove box. Absolutely incredible. Incredible olfactory capabilities. We're doing, we do a lot of sporting events, and we support a lot of the professional teams. Another one in LA, there was a SUV parked that had a Glock in the back seat. Nobody was in it. It was double parked. And our handler was walking down the side of the stadium, and the dog pulled over to that exact SUV, had to find the operator for the SUV, and he admitted he had a Glock in the back seat. So absolutely incredible olfactory capabilities from the canines, better than any other technology out there.
Wow, and that's a great way to look at it. The dog's noses are greater than any technology out there. It's absolutely a magic act. What you just defined in the 15 vehicles, but overall, the whole operation with the dogs, because you really get a double hit and a double value, in my view, for the customer. First of all, you detect and deter, right? You detect the gun, or they turn around and they go and hide it in the park, dig a hole and stitch the gun there, and then come back into the venue. But there's also the other bad behavior. I have found, I happen to love canines. I happen to love dogs, but I really love them in the business. We had occasion to deploy them a number of different times, particularly during COVID when things got really bizarre in Manhattan. And it's astonishing how fearful most people are when they see the dogs with the handler, and how that drives the point home. And to that point, what I'm going to do is we're coming up on a break, so we'll be right back. But I want to go back a little bit to the second attempt out of 4 on President Trump on September 15th, 2024 at the Trump International Golf Club in Palm Beach. And I want to look at that event through your eyes, Glenn, and through the context of canine deployment with those facts. And we'll be right back. So anyhow, folks, you're at the Batcave with Pat Brosnan and Glenn Kucera, president of MSA, a truly extraordinary, super elite security company, the best in the world, hands down. And right after this, we'll be right back to take a look at that second attempt on President Trump back in September 2024. Be right back.
When the storm hits or when your trees need serious care, you call O'Sullivan Tree Care. O'Sullivan Tree Care is a fully licensed and insured family-owned company, proudly serving Rockland County, Westchester County, and New Jersey. Their experienced team handles it all: tree removals, precision pruning, stump grinding, crane work, and emergency storm cleanup. Fast, safe, and professional. When severe weather strikes, O'Sullivan Tree Care responds when it matters most, clearing dangerous trees, restoring access, and protecting homes and properties. They also supply high-quality mulch and screen topsoil available for pickup or delivery. You call, they haul. What sets O'Sullivan Tree Care apart is reliability under pressure. When others step back, their crew steps forward. Experienced, equipped, and ready to work in the toughest conditions. So whether you're dealing with storm damage, downed trees, or routine property maintenance, make the call to the team you can trust. O'Sullivan Tree Care, 845-359-8733. That's 845-359-8733. O'Sullivan Tree Care, where quality meets reliability and the job gets done right.
Welcome back, folks. You got the Batcave here with Pat Brosnan and Glenn Kucera from MSA. The tippity top on security, hands down, no competition there. Just discussing before the break the second now of 4 attempts, inclusive of just Saturday night in Washington. But I'd like to take a look at what transpired at Trump International Golf Course, September 15th, Glenn, 2024. How quickly would your explosive and firearms detection canine teams have identified Ryan Wesley Routh? He was the thug, who's now doing life, who hid in the bushes with an automatic weapon for nearly 12 hours. My mind gets blown from it. I had the opportunity down in Palm Beach on some business to walk that exact route and to see the depth of the bushes. You know, they made it sound like he was in a great Amazon jungle and concealed for miles. He was just slightly off the sidewalk with some bushes and then a black chain link fence where he had set up shop with his little lunch bag, his little lunch box, and some waters. A complete retard. And what my thing is this: one of your handlers on a patrol, just a walking mobile patrol with one of your dogs, how quickly would they have identified Ryan Wesley Routh secreted in the bushes waiting to kill the president?
Oh, we'd have found him immediately. You know, one of our firearms detection teams, whether it's a Belgian Malinois, German Shepherd, even a lab, you know, the olfactory capabilities are the same. And a handler that actually knows what he's supposed to be doing, understands the scope of work, understands how to patrol, they would have found him immediately. You know, I find it outrageous that there are events planned for the President of the United States, and the advance work that's done ahead of his visits is almost non-existent. You know, if this suspect would have tried to walk in any place and came into contact with our team, again, deter and detect, we would have found him. He never would have been in the bushes in the first place. So that's an easy one. That's a layup. We would have found that suspect immediately.
It's really, really unbelievable uh, how ill prepared they are at the advance work, and we're gonna get deep into that. But I want to go and I kind of fast forward a bit because we know the dogs would have pinned out that knucklehead lightning fast, and don't understand why they're not leveraged. Do you think, or have you experienced when dealing with customers or prospective customers, when you're trying to solve a problem for them, you're trying to put together a comprehensive security program, do you find that they're hesitant about the dogs because of the optic, perhaps, or do they think that the dog might bite some people? Because I see so many scenarios, Glenn, and I personally have bid on so many and manage so many different assignments where they didn't go for the dogs. And this was before, by the way, you guys have mastered and perfected the weapons detection piece, which is a whole nother level. I salute you for that. I mean, they're magnetometers on four paws. I mean, right? If you think about it, what has been your experience on that? Because I don't understand why there's not canines on all the details with the President of the United States. I don't understand it.
Yeah, Pat, let me take a half step back. About 15 years ago, United States government spent $19 billion trying to determine the most effective way of finding explosives. Okay. Looked at every technology that was available 15 years ago.
Right.
What they came back to, they spent all this money, is the most effective is the dog. The olfactory sensors in the dog, 300 million olfactory receptors. You and I have 60 million. It's pretty good. It's not 300 million. You know, the story we always tell about the canine is, hey, you and I can smell a cookie, right? But the dog can detect a cookie from the sugar, from the flour, from each individual component. They have the capability, such a high sensitivity in their olfactory receptors. So 19 billion wasted, it came back to the dog. Why? Because it's a flexibility, it's a mobility. You don't have to bring the problem to the solution. You can take the solution to the problem. All of this works in. You know, is there a resistance to use canine, right? You know, we offer 20-year breeds for their very aggressive posture. We also offer labs. You know, there are labs that are doing firearms and explosive detection all over New York City. Some of our people are plain clothes because they don't want it to look like a very heavy security posture. Others wear our jerseys every day. But there are literally 200 in New York City alone that are doing firearms and explosive detection. Okay. Uh, some people are afraid of the dog, German Shepherd, Belgian Malinois, and that's why we use the labs. You know, we have financial institutions here that decide to deploy labs, and it almost becomes the pet, right? Everybody wants to pet the dog. Everyone wants to look at the dog, which is fine with us because the closer you get, the easier it is for us to detect. But we will deploy them, and they become a fabric and culture of that financial institution or bank. And if the dog is missing, they don't know the handler's name. They know the dog's name, and they say, "Hey, why is Luna not here today? Is something wrong with Luna?" So once they're in, they're absolutely hooked. Okay. Part of it, I think, of the hesitance is this. Everybody knows when you have a canine there, it's for high consequence, right? You're looking for a bomb, you're looking for a gun, you could be looking for narcotics. And some of the hesitation could be that you don't want to create that visibility that your life could be in danger when you come to work. Okay. And I think some of that hesitancy is just trying to not create the illusion that your environment is more dangerous. But let me tell you, after 345 Park, okay, after 345 Park, we all know what happened there. Okay. 47 shots fired, 4 killed. Um, a lot of the businesses in Manhattan were adding, either hostile surveillance specialists, which were plainclothes armed people, to, try to pick detect any perpetrators that could be coming in, or K9 became very popular because again, now people are saying, "Hey, COVID's over. You want me to come back to work in New York City? Am I going to get shot where I'm in New York City? Is there a problem on the subway? Is there a problem, in any of these facilities?" And they got more of a sense of relief when they knew that they were adding security measures and the very visible canines to ensure the safety of these employees as they come back to work in New York City.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're a supreme deterrent. I mean, pound for pound, they're more deterring than putting out an offensive line. With guns and weapons, right? A bunch of 6'6" monsters, like yourself, and put them out there in uniform. And they're really with overt weapons. I've seen it time and time again. It was always amazing to me the impact that it had on both bad actors and just folks who were trying to get into a different venue that we might have been commissioned with protection. But what I'd like to go through, Glenn, I'm going to jump past the third attempt, which was February 22nd of 2026 at Mar-a-Lago. That's an entirely different one. The guy came through a slow closing gate, a heavy old legacy gate, and he had to sneak in real quick as a car went out. And he was terminated immediately by Palm Beach County Sheriff's officers and Secret Service. So he would never have gotten through anyhow. Even if he got through them somehow with his shotgun, he had layers of additional security up to the president's residence, which, by the way, was empty because, this guy's a knucklehead. He just didn't even know the president wasn't there, which everybody in Palm Beach knows when he's in and out because of the Air Force One. But
Right.
I think what's important for folks to understand is that when you deploy a team, there is very significant advanced work done on different levels, including walking the site, assessing the threat level, research and background screening of individuals. For instance, on the shooting on April 25th, Saturday night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, you have very significant data and intelligence before you even put together a team with your leadership to deploy to mitigate against any threats. And I think it would be very informing if you could take us through using that scenario at the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting. What the MSA under your leadership would have handled that from as soon as you got the assignment, if you were provided with that assignment.
Absolutely, Pat. Let me take a half a step back. Let's talk about intel, right? Critical piece is how much intelligence can you gather on the threat? Okay. One thing that we do in my division at MSA Security and Allied Universal Enhanced Protection Services is we absolutely study every hostile event in the world. Okay. So every morning we send out a report to all of our clients saying, these are the active shooter events. These are the potential IED threats all over the United States and the world. Any protests, we we absolutely report and notify our clients on all of these. But the other thing we do with our intel group, and we have some AI included in this, is try to investigate the who, what, when, where, why of every one of these events and try to be more predictive, right? Intel's all based on history. Is there anything we can gather through all of our human resources and artificial intelligence to try to get more predictive in all of this, okay? Here's the dilemma, okay? After Charlie Kirk got assassinated, they took a poll and about 15% of the people in a certain demographic said that they believe in political violence. When Brian Thompson got murdered, more people gave positive sentiment to Mangione than they did to Thompson. Mangione's got a better social life in Rikers than he had in the free world, okay? 340 million people in the United States, 15% think it's okay, political violence is acceptable. There's millions of people out there that could have bad intentions and think it's absolutely fine. It's impossible for us to know what each one of these individuals are thinking. You know, all of these suspects, from Thompson to the 345 Park to Kirk's murder to the Brown shooting to the attempts on Trump's life, all single males sitting at their home getting radicalized. How do we know? It's impossible for us to predict that. Okay, we're not going to know everybody with bad intentions. So then it takes this next step forward, the assessment. Right? We have a group of people that are, you know, from your background, Pat, ex-NYPD, you know, some work for some government agencies, and they do threat assessments. They'll walk the site. They'll look at everything. They'll do advance. They may fly some drones over to see what's going on. Look at those points of ingress, egress. You know, where can the threat possibly come from? Traffic flows, all of this. And spend time on that site for 2 or 3 days trying to figure out exactly where the threat is coming from. In this situation, you know, I think they set up an outer perimeter. They didn't take into account the people that were in the hotel rooms. Why would they have not done? Why have they not done firearms detection on everybody checking into that hotel for a week in advance of that event?
Touche. I'm going to put a pin in it because that you brought me exactly where I wanted to bring you. Well done. We're now at the stage of our relationship, Glenn, where we finish each other's sentences. God help us. So anyhow, folks, we're coming up on a break. It's the Batcave with Pat Brosnan. I'm here with Glenn Kucera, president of MSA, the #1, numero uno, armed protection, elite warriors that get deployed around the world in 100 countries. Stay with us. We're coming right back, and we're going to look at what happened last Saturday at the Hilton and how it could have been mitigated. Be right back.
Is your organization prepared for today's technology and security challenges? At CMS Technology Partners, we deliver customized, best-of-breed solutions that protect your people, your property, and your peace of mind. From AI camera vision and real-time threat detection to advanced mobile weapon screening and X-ray imaging systems, we help you stay ahead of evolving threats without replacing your entire system. Plus, our expert team builds secure, scalable IT infrastructure, network and cloud solutions designed to fit your exact needs. With over 20 years of experience, CMS Technology Partners brings the technology, service, and support your business deserves. Visit callcms.com to see how we can strengthen your security and tech, so you can focus on what matters most.
Welcome back, folks. Pat Brosnan here with Glenn Kucera. You're with the Batcave with PB. And guess what? We dissect what is known and available material facts relating to what transpired at the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday. And I want to see it through the eyes of the leader of MSA, Glenn Kucera, and I want him to take us through how absolutely critical the intelligence gathering is prior to the deployment and how that informs how he stages his officers and how he would have staged it. So, Glenn, take it away.
You know, Pat, the crazy thing that people may or may not realize about this specific hotel is it's the same hotel where Hinckley tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan years and years and years ago. So history somewhat repeats itself, right? And you even heard President Trump, when he was interviewed after the incident, say, you know, he felt that the security in that hotel is a little bit suspect. But here we are, 2,000 people gathered at the Correspondents. You know, and we discussed the threat assessment and looking for all vulnerabilities. So we would have done a very thorough threat assessment, physical inspection and all this. and try to determine if there are any areas inside that building where you can get at those dignitaries that were sitting in that ballroom. I find it totally, totally, incomprehensible that they didn't know to block that door in that hallway. We had a guy that took the train from Northern California, Washington, D.C., checked into the hotel. And in a day, he figured out that he could open that door, run down that hallway with the firearm. And all the experts in the world didn't know that that spot was there. The other thing I found, hey, again, Secret Service, law enforcement did a great job of reacting, but he ran past about 3 guys that had their back to that door. One thing we always teach our security specialists is you're supposed to protect the door. You better be looking at the door, right? Be prepared. So, this should have never happened. It's incomprehensible that he had access to that hallway. He checked in, nobody checked him, carrying firearms, knives, whatever he had in. I believe he checked in a day in advance. But again, all of that advance work for a Hilton, where there's an assassination attempt already on the president years and years and years ago, you would have thought that they checked everybody and looked for firearms and any potential explosive devices for that, everybody checking into that hotel days before. Let me tell you another story, Pat. This one might be even more horrifying. I visit a lot of buildings here, corporate offices in New York City, all the time, right? I'm always amazed sometimes I can walk through the lobby, walk to the boardroom, and meet with key executives, and I have people with me that are, ex-law enforcement, ex-joint terrorism task force, and they're carrying on HR 218, and we always waltz into the boardroom. Half of us have firearms on us, and nobody knows. And I always say, I'm in security. I'm a high concept of security. Aren't you concerned that I brought 3 guys in this boardroom that are carrying? Yeah, they have some concerns, right? But I was in a meeting last summer. I'm not going to tell you where it was. Okay, walked into the meeting, had my bag with me, walked into the boardroom, put my bag down. Excuse me, I'm 60 years old. I had to use the restroom before the meeting, and they said, "Sure." Unescorted, walked into the restroom, walked back, and then they told me that President Trump is in the building at the same time as me. Nobody checked my bag. Nobody checked it for explosives. Nobody checked it for a firearm. I could have put the bag in that boardroom and I could have walked out. Again, the lack of advanced work when the President of the United States is visiting these facilities is unimaginable to me. There have been 4 attempts, right? Every one of them. And if I look at my security posture, we'd have done a great assessment up front. We could identify all these between canine, armed people, executive protection, everything we offer, anti-drone detection, right? Everything we offer, we could have stopped every single event. We could have stopped every shot that being fired. But it's always
Including, by the way, Charlie Kirk.
100%.
Charlie Kirk.
You're absolutely
Counter
right.
drone technology would have identified Ryan on the roof of the USER campus. And that's a fact.
Absolutely.
It's shame on them, and it is incomprehensible. And that's a great word and a great way to explain it. When the technology is there and they elect not to use it, and when the intelligence is discoverable and they elect not to look, to me, it's gross negligence. It's incompetence. If I had a front burner, this would be in front of the front burner, would be changing up that security, the process, the protocol, the procedures, protecting the president, because he's only going to get lucky so many times. And the reality is, just a couple of your canine weapon detection dogs in that lobby at the Hilton would have identified this guy. He was there with a Mossberg pump action, a .38 automatic, and multiple knives. Your dogs would have picked him up from 100 feet away. And that's how it's done. And another thing, Glenn, and I know when you gather your intel, how critical a factor would it be that not only did he check in the day before, how far away he came. He came from just outside LA, and that he was solo. So traveling a great distance by yourself. Now you're in the house under the roof with the president. I mean, come on. These are clues. I mean, what would you guys have done with that?
Let me ask you a question, Pat. We try to learn from history, right?
Sure.
You don't think we learned anything from Mandalay Bay?
Oh, I mentioned it this morning. Exactly. Great point. Mentioned that this morning. That's right. 57 teenagers murdered, and he checked in a couple of days early. And he took 2 rooms, if I remember, right? He took the
Absolutely.
room in the solo from a great distance, 2 rooms, multiple. I mean, how do they miss this? Is it? It's just gross incompetence, or is it that no one really cares? I mean, there was guys with their faces in the phone at the magnetometer. They had their faces buried in the phone.
I think we were relying too much on our capability to react. Secret Service, law enforcement, something happens, we can react, we'll take down the shooter. But on my side, on the third party security side, we try to avoid those shots being fired in the first place. That's where it all starts. That is real security.
Yeah, but so much of it, common sense, right? When you look real hard at what we've done for years in deploying teams to mitigate risk, it's looking at the landscape, do your homework, walk it, do your research, gather your intel. But you look at doors. Hey, that door's got to be. You got to post a guy at that door. That's a fixed post. Put an armed guy at that door. You know, this escalator. That's a means of egress or ingress. The other doors. For me, not to do those and implement those rudimentary steps is just indicative of just not caring. I mean, really, that you're just not really you're not really committed to keeping this president alive, and it's terrifying. And they're never going to stop. They're never going to stop. Never.
You know,
Never
Pat,
gonna
it's a
stop.
numbers game. It's a numbers game as well, right? There are millions of people in this country that think that political violence is absolutely fine, right? We will never know what they're all thinking. We'll never know the timing of their intentions. Well, I have no idea when somebody gets on a train from California to DC what his or her intentions are. All we can do is do an assessment, mitigate the risk, and deter and detect. That's what we need to do. Right place at the right time with the right capability. That's what our business is all about. We've had some narrow misses.
Yeah, but you do it intelligently, do it pragmatically, you do it comprehensively.
Right.
You would not have missed the door. You would have had, I'm 1,000% certain, armed officers in uniform spread throughout that massive lobby, and probably a few plainclothesmen too, also on just to see who's acting suspiciously. You know, who's in lugging a gigantic hefty bag that has the outline of a Mossberg, a long barrel Mossberg pump action.
Right.
Wow. Well, listen, Glenn, this has been amazing. You're doing great work. You're doing God's work. You're on the right side of the angels. And I salute you. Keep up the great work. And thank you for joining us. And folks, Pat Brosnan at the Batcave. And all right, before we wrap up, if you haven't already, do me a favor, hit that subscribe or follow button so you don't miss any of the Batcave action. We're on YouTube, we're Spotify, all the usual spots. Just search Pat Brosnan, Live from the Batcave, and you'll find us. And hey, leave a quick review or rating while you're there. It really helps us grow the show so we can keep bringing you back the best guests like Glenn, the great stories and straight talk you won't hear anywhere else. Appreciate all the support. You guys make it happen every week. Thank you. And Glenn, thank you. This was excellent.
pleasure.
Very informing. My man.
Oh,
Good
always a
stuff.
pleasure. Thank you,
Look for
sir.
all the great work, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Alex.
Of course, Pat. That was perfect. Thank you both.
All right. Thank you.
God bless.
Glenn, go on. Hey, Alex.